Are you supposed to be meeting someone here?
Waiting for the bus. Due any minute.
Oh.
Some of them crop duster pilots get...
Few stars have ever embodied effortless sophistication like Cary Grant. Born Archibald Leach in Bristol in 1904, he remade himself through sheer charm and discipline, transforming hardship into poise. His father had his mother institutionalized when he was 9, telling the boy she had died, a trauma that haunted him for life. Yet from that pain emerged a man who seemed unshakably graceful. "Everyone wants to be Cary Grant," he once joked. "Even I want to be Cary Grant." Behind the humor was truth. The persona he created became the armor that protected the vulnerable boy inside. Across 70 films, from screwball comedies to thrillers, Grant defined mid-century Hollywood cool. But when he looked back near the end of his life, he didn't measure success in fame or awards.
Stop, don't whistle in my ear, please.
Mortimer,
I'm nervous.
what is wrong? Look at your hair.
Oh, my goodness, what color is it? Quick, is it turned?
Instead, he spoke fondly of a handful of movies that reflected his truest self, performances that revealed in flickers the man behind the myth. In this film, we'll revisit 6 movies Cary Grant named as his favorites, tracing how each captured a different facet of his genius. Number 6, His Girl Friday, 1940.
Well, if you have any accusations to make them in the proper manner. Otherwise, I'll have to ask you to get out.
When Cary Grant stepped onto the set of His Girl Friday, he was already the screen's embodiment of charm. But in Howard Hawks' lightning-paced newsroom comedy, he became something else entirely, the prototype for the modern screwball leading man. The 1940 film, adapted from Ben Hecht's play The Front Page, reimagined the story by changing one major detail. The ace reporter Hildy Johnson was now a woman. Opposite Rosalind Russell's whip-smart Hildy, Grant's Walter Burns wasn't just a boss. He was a sparring partner, a schemer, and a man fighting for love with nothing but words as his weapons. From its opening scene, His Girl Friday never stops moving. Hawks encouraged Grant and Russell to overlap their dialogue, a radical technique for the time, creating a dizzying rhythm that mirrored the chaos of a newsroom chasing headlines. Viewers had to lean in to catch every barb and comeback. Hawks wanted it faster, always faster, Russell recalled, and Cary could keep up with anyone. Grant's performance turned verbal speed into choreography. Every line lands with the precision of a dance step. Every glance carries an undercurrent of affection or mischief. Grant loved witty repartee, but he also knew how hard it was to make it look effortless. Decades later, he admitted that screwball comedy required split-second timing and a kind of musical ear. That combination made Walter Burns immortal. He's ruthless yet endearing, a man who'll fake a kidnapping, forge a story, or flatter anyone to win Hildy back. Underneath the manipulative tactics, though, is the romantic panic of someone terrified to lose the one person who truly understands him. For audiences in 1940, this was liberation. The film broke gender rules. Hildy outsmarts Walter at every turn, and their rivalry feels more like equality than submission. Grant's ability to match her pace without condescension gave the movie its electricity. "It's like watching fireworks in dialogue form," critic Pauline Kael later wrote. Behind the scenes, Hawks trusted Grant's instincts completely. Many of the film's funniest moments were improvised, including Walter's sly, self-referential line about an actor named Archie Leach, Grant's real birth name. That wink to his own invented identity delighted him. It was proof that he could finally laugh at the mask he'd built. The result was a film that redefined screen comedy. Its influence runs through everything from broadcast news to The West Wing, proof that rapid-fire intelligence can be just as thrilling as gunfire. Grant's work in His Girl Friday marked the peak of his verbal athleticism and his mastery of tone, one raised eyebrow away from irony, one pause away from sincerity. Watching it now, you can sense why he cherished roles like this. They let him hide vulnerability behind wit, much as Cary Grant himself hid Archie Leach behind a tuxedo and a smile. Modern comedies rarely match the machine gun pace of His Girl Friday. Do you think today's films have lost that rhythm? Or have they simply found new ways to be sharp? Number 5. Charade, 1963.
I just have a lot of packing to do. I'm going back to Paris, too.
Well, wasn't it Shakespeare who said when strangers do meet in far-off lands, they should ere long see each other again?
Shakespeare never said that.
If Cary Grant's career were a symphony, Charade would be the encore. A dazzling, elegant performance that summed up everything audiences adored about him. Released in 1963, Stanley Donen's Charade paired Grant with Audrey Hepburn in a film that flirted between thriller and romantic comedy, a Hitchcockian mystery delivered with the sparkle of champagne. Critics called it the best Hitchcock movie Hitchcock never made, and for Grant, it became one of the defining roles of his later years, proof that age hadn't dulled his charm or timing. Grant plays Peter Joshua, a man of many names and no clear loyalties. From the moment Hepburn's character Reggie Lampert meets him on a ski holiday, she's caught between attraction and suspicion. Is he a lover or a liar? A hero or a thief? That ambiguity gave Grant a new challenge. After decades of playing debonair bachelors, he now portrayed a man carrying secrets. And he did it with a wink, letting the audience in on the joke. Behind the scenes, however, Grant was self-conscious. At 58, he worried that romancing the 33-year-old Hepburn might appear unseemly. Production notes reveal he only agreed to take the role after the script was rewritten to give Hepburn most of the flirtatious lines, flipping the usual dynamic. "It's not that he's chasing her," Donen said. "It's that she's chasing him, and that makes all the difference." The result is a romance that feels playful rather than predatory, an elegant dance of equal partners. Grant's performance balances levity and danger with remarkable finesse. One moment, he's suavely evading assassins. The next, he's teasing Hepburn with effortless warmth. The film's shifting tones, comedy, suspense, and romance mirror Grant's ability to blend sophistication with self-deprecation. Film historian David Thompson once remarked that Charade showed a man aware of his myth, yet still capable of laughing at it. That, perhaps, is what made Grant timeless. He knew exactly what audiences wanted from Cary Grant and managed to deliver it while gently parodying it. The chemistry between Grant and Hepburn remains magnetic. Their banter sparkles with sincerity beneath the wit. Off camera, Hepburn called him the most gracious and charming man I have ever known, while Grant reportedly admired her innate sense of style and innocence. Watching them together feels like witnessing two cinematic worlds, Hollywood's golden age and its modern reinvention, colliding in perfect harmony. Visually, Charade is a feast of 1960s elegance. Paris in autumn, chic Givenchy costumes, and Henry Mancini's jazzy score winding through cobblestone streets.
Who does? I don't know, Herman. Maybe you do. Me. Or you. Oh.
It's no wonder audiences adored it. The film offered glamour and suspense just as the old studio system was fading. For Grant, who would retire only a few years later, Charade felt like a farewell disguised as entertainment. Beneath its sophistication lies a poignant truth. Grant was saying goodbye to the romantic hero he had spent a lifetime inventing. Yet he does so with grace, humor, and that irrepressible twinkle in his eye, the embodiment of Cary Grant himself. Do you think Charade captures the final perfect version of Cary Grant's screen persona? Or does it reveal a man quietly ready to leave it behind? Number 4. North by Northwest, 1959.
A large red brick house with a curved tree-lined driveway.
That's the one.
Were you at home last night, Mr. Townsend?
You mean in...
By 1959, Cary Grant had already perfected the art of screen elegance. But Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest turned that polish into pure cinematic adrenaline. Grant's Roger Thornhill, a suave advertising executive mistaken for a spy, is the ultimate ordinary man in extraordinary trouble. It was the fourth and final collaboration between actor and director, and both men were at the peak of their craft. The result was a movie that critics still call the blueprint for the modern action thriller. Grant once quipped that North by Northwest was a fine way to spend a summer, yet his performance was more than summer entertainment. It distilled everything audiences loved about him: Cool under pressure, witty even in chaos, unflappable when the world turned upside down. Hitchcock adored using Grant's sophistication as a weapon. "He's the best piece of casting you could ask for," the director said. "The darker the danger, the lighter he becomes." The film's opening establishes that duality immediately. Thornhill is snatched from a Manhattan bar and thrust into a nightmare of espionage, framed for murder and pursued across the continent. Grant's timing, his blend of irritation, disbelief, and dry humor, makes each perilous moment oddly funny. His reactions are never heroic poses. They're the bemused expressions of a civilized man watching the world lose its mind. The famous crop duster sequence remains one of cinema's most studied scenes. There's no music, just the hiss of wind and the growl of an engine as Thornhill runs across endless cornfields. Hitchcock had stripped away artifice to heighten suspense, and Grant's every stumble feels terrifyingly real. Decades later, Spielberg admitted the scene inspired Jaws and Raiders of the Lost Ark. He called it the perfect marriage of star and staging. Grant enjoyed the production, but never took the praise too seriously. When asked about his own daring stunts, he laughed, "That was the running, jumping, and ducking of a man who'd rather be at lunch." Yet beneath the humor lay professional pride. Hitchcock demanded absolute precision, and Grant delivered take after take without complaint. Co-star Eva Marie Saint later said, "He was a study in grace. He made panic look elegant."
Don't tell me where we're going. Surprise me. You know, I left some friends back there in the oak bar.
North by Northwest also reflected Grant's comfort with Hitchcock's themes of mistaken identity and reinvention, ideas that mirrored his own life. Archie Leach had invented Cary Grant, much as Thornhill is forced to invent George Kaplan, the phantom spy he's accused of being. That playful self-awareness made his performance feel personal. "In a way," Grant told a friend, "I was always running from Archie Leach." The film's finale atop Mount Rushmore fused myth and irony, the monumental American faces framing a chase between love and danger. When Thornhill finally rescues Eve Kendall and pulls her into the train berth, Hitchcock cuts to the locomotive entering a tunnel. An audacious joke Grant admired for its mischievous symbolism. For audiences, North by Northwest remains a masterclass in entertainment, witty, thrilling, and irresistibly stylish. For Grant, it was a reminder that sophistication could still surprise, and that the man who seemed most in control was always one misstep from chaos. The crop duster attack is often cited as the most perfect action scene ever shot. What makes it so effective for you? The silence, the editing, or Grant's sheer vulnerability? Number 3. Arsenic and Old Lace, 1944.
Just a pinch of cyanide.
Should have quite a kick.
By 1944, Cary Grant had already perfected suave comedy, but Arsenic and Old Lace pushed him into something far more chaotic, and for him, deeply uncomfortable. Directed by Frank Capra and adapted from the hit Broadway play, the story follows Mortimer Brewster, a drama critic who discovers that his sweet, elderly aunts have been cheerfully murdering lonely old men and burying them in the basement. The film is pure farce, running on manic energy and gallows humor. Audiences loved it. Grant did not. He later called his performance dreadful, telling interviewers that Capra wanted him to play everything at double speed and maximum volume. "I begged him to let me underplay," Grant said, but Frank insisted on the opposite. "I thought I was terrible." Capra, meanwhile, was delighted. He wanted Grant to be the human equivalent of a cartoon, eyes wide, limbs flailing, every emotion magnified. The result is one of the funniest, most exaggerated performances in Hollywood history, though it drove Grant nearly mad. "I thought I should be one of the old ladies," he joked years later. "At least they got to stay calm." Ironically, the qualities Grant hated, the frantic pacing, the rubber-faced double takes, were what audiences adored. Critics at the time called the movie the most cheerful piece of murder ever filmed. It became one of Warner Brothers' biggest hits of the decade, beloved for its blend of macabre humor and screwball timing. The disconnect between Grant's self-criticism and public adoration says a lot about the man. Even at the height of his fame, he was his own harshest judge, forever chasing an impossible standard of grace. Watching Arsenic and Old Lace today, it's hard not to laugh at his exaggerated panic as Mortimer discovers a corpse stuffed into a window seat. Every grimace and shout seems to teeter between horror and hysteria. Yet beneath the physical comedy, there's a strange sincerity. Grant sells Mortimer's bewilderment so completely that the madness feels almost plausible. This was his genius. Even when the plot spiraled into absurdity, his timing and precision anchored the chaos. Off-screen, Grant admired Capra's idealism, but disliked the exhausting repetition the director demanded. The film was shot during a short break between Grant's USO tours supporting Allied troops in World War II, and he later said the experience left him wrung out. Still, he never disowned the film. He simply wished he'd done it differently. "I played it too big," he admitted. "Someone else could have been subtler. Maybe Jimmy Stewart." Over time, the movie's reputation only grew. Younger audiences discovered its eccentric mix of slapstick and darkness, and what Grant viewed as excess came to be celebrated as inspired lunacy. His wide-eyed terror, sprinting around the Gothic house in disbelief, feels like a visual representation of the line between sanity and absurdity, a theme Grant would revisit in later comedies. There's a touching irony here. The film Grant disliked became one of the surest proofs of his versatility. Arsenic and Old Lace showed that Cary Grant didn't need control to be brilliant. Sometimes, losing composure was the point. Have you ever loved a performance an actor claimed to hate? Why do you think artists like Grant are often their own toughest critics? Number 2, None But the Lonely Heart, 1944. When None But the Lonely Heart arrived in theaters in 1944, audiences were taken aback. Gone was the urbane playboy they knew from Bringing Up Baby or The Philadelphia Story. In his place stood a drifter with a Cockney accent, worn clothes, and restless eyes. For Cary Grant, the role of Ernie Mott was a rare chance to shed the mask of sophistication and return to the raw emotions of his working-class roots. He later confessed that the part seemed to fit my nature better than the light-hearted fellows I was used to playing. It was as if Archie Leach, the boy from Bristol who ran away to join the circus, had finally stepped back into the frame. Adapted from Richard Llewellyn's novel, the film tells the story of Ernie, a wanderer in London's East End who lives by charm and wit until his mother's illness forces him to face responsibility. Directed by playwright Clifford Odets, the movie brims with social realism, a gritty compassion unusual in Grant's career. Odets, known for his left-leaning politics and poetic dialogue, drew from Depression-era street life rather than drawing-room banter. Grant, who often worried about being typecast as a man in a dinner jacket, embraced the chance to play someone poor, proud, and vulnerable. The transformation was remarkable. Critics praised the authenticity of his performance, and the Academy took notice. Grant earned an Oscar nomination for Best Actor, only his second after Penny Serenade. In interviews, he described the shoot as emotionally draining but personally liberating. "It was the first time I didn't have to be charming," he said. Ernie didn't pretend. For a man who had spent decades hiding behind impeccable manners, that honesty must have been cathartic. In one of the film's most haunting scenes, Ernie visits his dying mother, played with quiet strength by Ethel Barrymore. Their conversation, half resentment, half love, is almost unbearably real. When she whispers, "You've got your father's wandering blood," Ernie's face crumbles. For a moment, Cary Grant drops every trace of polish. He is just a lost son promising to do better. Barrymore won the Oscar for her performance, but it's Grant's barely restrained emotion that anchors the film. Off-screen, he carried deep empathy for Ernie's struggle. Having grown up in poverty and endured his mother's sudden disappearance into a mental institution, Grant understood what it meant to build walls against pain. None But the Lonely Heart let him explore that wound under the guise of fiction. His longtime friend Howard Hughes once said that the film showed the Cary he hid from the world. Though the movie wasn't a commercial hit, it gained a loyal following among critics who admired its sincerity. Decades later, Martin Scorsese cited it as one of the most human performances in studio-era cinema. It revealed that beneath Grant's comedic elegance lay an actor capable of profound melancholy. In retrospect, None But the Lonely Heart feels like the bridge between Archie Leach and Cary Grant, a meeting of the man he was and the myth he became. It reminded audiences, and perhaps Grant himself, that vulnerability can be its own kind of courage. Do you prefer seeing actors like Grant in glamorous roles, or when they strip everything away? Which performance feels more real to you, the mask or the man beneath it? Number 1. The Philadelphia Story, 1940.
And you a writer? I thought all writers drank to excess and beat their wives. You know, one time I think I secretly wanted to be a writer.
If there was ever a role that captured everything people love about Cary Grant, it was C.K. Dexter Haven in The Philadelphia Story. The part offered him elegance, irony, charm, and the emotional depth he often kept hidden behind his witty surface. Grant himself told the Saturday Evening Post that Dexter Haven was his favorite role, a part he thoroughly enjoyed playing. He loved the film's honesty and gentle humor, its combination of romance and self-awareness that felt truer to him than most of the urbane mask-wearing heroes he played. The production was something of a dream team. Based on Philip Barry's hit play, The Philadelphia Story brought together Grant, Katharine Hepburn, and James Stewart, directed by George Cukor. Hepburn, who had been struggling with a box office poison label, owned the stage rights and handpicked her co-stars. She knew that Grant's poise and timing would ground her fiery character, Tracy Lord, and that Stewart's vulnerability would balance their banter. Grant accepted the role on one eccentric condition. His $137,000 salary would be donated entirely to the British War Relief Fund and the USO. "They could use it more than I," he quipped. Dexter Haven is the quintessential Grant creation, witty, slightly smug, but ultimately tender. The story begins with Tracy's remarriage plans and Dexter's mischievous determination to remind her of their unfinished love. He's a man who has learned humility through heartbreak, a theme that resonated deeply with Grant's own life. Biographers note that the actor was going through personal turmoil during this period, still searching for a sense of belonging. Playing Dexter Haven let him explore those feelings through polished dialogue instead of confession. The film's charm lies in its rhythm, a symphony of overlapping conversation, sharp pauses, and knowing glances. Grant never overshadows his co-stars. Instead, he reacts, listens, and lets Hepburn and Stewart shine. His understated humor turns each line into music. When Dexter Riley tells Tracy, "You'll never be a first-class human being or a first-class woman until you've learned to have regard for human frailty,"
Of it. Because you'll never be a first-class human being or a first-class woman until you've learned to have some regard for human frailty.
it feels as though Grant is speaking about himself, a man who understood grace as empathy. Critics hailed The Philadelphia Story as a masterpiece of romantic comedy, and time has only strengthened its reputation. Stewart won the Oscar for Best Actor, but Grant's restraint is what makes the film timeless. Modern reviewers often call it a clinic in charm under control. Watching it today, you can see how he defined an entire archetype, the man who hides sincerity behind sophistication. For Grant, this was not just another hit. It was a reaffirmation of his craft and his humanity. When asked years later which of his films he cherished most, he didn't hesitate: The Philadelphia Story. "I enjoyed every moment of it," he said simply. "It was civilized fun." Which scene between Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn feels the most genuine to you? Their quiet reconciliation or their barbed opening exchanges? What does this film teach about forgiveness and pride? Cary Grant's story is the story of transformation, not just from Archie Leach to movie star, but from survivor to artist. He spent a lifetime chasing the version of himself the world adored, yet the films he cherished most were the ones that brought him closest to honesty. The Philadelphia Story celebrated forgiveness and wit. None But the Lonely Heart exposed his tenderness. North by Northwest let him laugh at fear. Arsenic and Old Lace reminded him that imperfection could be endearing. Charade and His Girl Friday proved that intelligence and humor never go out of style. When he retired in 1966, Grant walked away on his own terms, content to be a father and a gentleman rather than an icon. Even his death in 1986 reflected that poise, quiet, private, with no funeral, no spectacle. He left behind a filmography that feels timeless not because of glamour, but because of humanity. Beneath the tuxedo and the wit was a man searching for grace, and finding it, frame by frame. So perhaps the ultimate lesson Cary Grant offers is this: elegance isn't about perfection. It's about composure in the face of chaos, laughter in uncertainty, kindness amid insecurity. Which of his films speaks to you the most? Do you see more of Archie Leach or Cary Grant in the man who became both? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more journeys through cinema's golden past.